नमस्कार दोस्तों। तो इस वीडियो में हम पढ़ेंगे द बेस्ट क्रिसमस प्रेजेंट इन द वर्ल्ड के क्वेश्चन आंसर्स। इस चैप्टर को हमने रीड करा था प्रीवियस वीडियो में और मैंने आपको प्रॉमिस किया था कि इसके क्वेश्चन आंसर्स की वीडियो मैं अपलोड करूंगा अपने चैनल पे, तो यही है वो वीडियो। तो इस वीडियो में हम करेंगे इस चैप्टर के सारे क्वेश्चन आंसर्स। अगर आपको यह वीडियो अच्छी लगे तो इसे लाइक और शेयर कीजिए और मेरे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब। तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं। क्वेश्चन 1, व्हाट डिड द ऑथर फाइंड इन अ जंक शॉप? आंसर, the author found a 19th century roll top desk which was put up for a sale in a junk shop. It was in very bad condition, with scorch marks all down one side and several broken pieces, as one leg was clumsily mended. Second question, what did you find in a secret drawer? Who do you think had put it in there? Answer, the author found a shallow space underneath the roll top desk drawer which was a secret drawer. There was a small black tin box which had a piece of lined notepaper that was sellotaped to its top. There was a note written on it in shaky handwriting. Jim's last letter, received January 25, 1915, to be buried with me when the time comes. It seems the letter was put inside the box by Mrs Jim Macpherson, with her full name and address written on the envelope. तो दोस्तों सेकंड कॉम्प्रीहेंशंस के 5 क्वेश्चंस हैं, ये भी हम कंप्लीट कर लेते हैं। क्वेश्चन 1, who had written the letter to whom and when? Answer, Captain Jim Macpherson of the British Army, who was fighting a war against the Germans, had written the letter to his wife Connie on 26th December 1914. Question 2, why was the letter written? What was the wonderful thing that had happened? Answer, Jim Macpherson wrote the letter to his wife Connie and described the wonderful event that happened on the day of Christmas. Although a war was going on between the British and the Germans, they celebrated Christmas and played a friendly football match together. Question 3, what jobs did Hans Wolff and Jim Macpherson have when they were not soldiers? Answer, before joining the armed forces, Hans Wolff from Dusseldorf used to play the cello in an orchestra, and Jim Macpherson was a school teacher from Dorset. Question 4, had Hans Wolff ever been to Dorset? Why did he say he knew it? Answer, no. Hans had never been to Dorset in the past. He had learned about the Dorset from school and read several English books. One of his favorite books was Far from the Madding Crowd, written by Thomas Hardy. Question 5, do you think Jim Macpherson came back from the war? How do you know this? Answer, no. It appears that Jim Macpherson never returned home from the war. Perhaps due to this reason his wife Connie had preserved all his letters carefully. तो दोस्तों ये हो गया हमारे कॉम्प्रीहेंशन 2 के क्वेश्चन आंसर्स। नेक्स्ट कॉम्प्रीहेंशन 3 के क्वेश्चन आंसर्स। अब करते हैं इसके क्वेश्चन आंसर्स। क्वेश्चन 1, व्हाई डिड द ऑथर गो टू ब्रिडपोर्ट? आंसर, द ऑथर वेंट टू ब्रिडपोर्ट टू मीट कॉनी मैकफरसन एंड डिलीवर द लेटर विच हैड हर एड्रेस मिसेस जिम मैकफरसन 12 कॉपर बीचेस ब्रिडपोर्ट एंड डोरसेट. He wanted to deliver the letter to her written by her husband, which the author had mistakenly opened and read the contents of. Question 2, how old was Mrs Macpherson now? Where was she? Mrs Connie Macpherson was 101 years old. She was in the Burlington House nursing home that was located on Dorchester Road on the other side of town. Next questions ये कर लेते हैं और उसके बाद ये वाले. Question 1, who did Connie Macpherson think her visitor was? Answer, Connie Macpherson thought that the visitor carrying the letter was her husband, Jim Macpherson. Question 2, which sentence in the text shows that the visitor did not try to hide his identity? Answer, the sentence which shows that the visitor did not try to hide his identity is, I explained about the desk, about how I found it, but I don't think she was listening. From this sentence, we understand that although the author tries his best to explain how he found the letter in the old roll-top desk, Mrs Macpherson didn't pay attention to his words. Rather, she stroked the letter tenderly with her fingertips. तो दोस्तों ये सारे क्वेश्चंस हमारे हो गए हैं। अब कर लेते हैं वर्क विद टेक्स्ट वाले सारे क्वेश्चन आंसर्स। क्वेश्चन 1, फॉर हाउ लॉन्ग डू यू थिंक कोनी हैड केप्ट जिम्स लेटर? गिव रीजंस फॉर योर आंसर. आंसर, कोनी केप्ट जिम्स लेटर फॉर अ लॉन्ग पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. We understand this from the fact that she told the narrator how she used to read the letter every day and could feel Jim's presence around her always. Question 2, why do you think the desk had been sold and when? Answer, the roll-top desk was put up for sale when the house in which Mrs Jim Macpherson lived caught fire. and she was taken to the Burlington House nursing home. Most of the things got burnt and were put up for sale thereafter. Question 3. Why do Jim and Hans think that games or sports are good ways of resolving conflicts? Do you agree? Answer. Jim and Hans thought that games or sports were good ways of resolving conflicts because nobody lays down their lives in matches. Neither do children become orphans, nor do wives become widows of martyred soldiers. Both Jim and Hans thought that war only leads to death, conflict and devastation, whereas playing matches is a good way to end the conflicts. Yes, I agree with both Jim and Hans that playing friendly matches is definitely an ideal way to resolve conflicts between two enemy countries without any loss of life and property. Question 4. Do you think the soldiers of the two armies are like each other or different from each other? Find evidence from the story to support your answer. Answer. The soldiers of the two armies are similar to each other as per following reasons derived from the story. Both armies celebrated Christmas together. They shared good moments together by eating, laughing, drinking and talking with each other. Both armies played a friendly football match and approved the fact that conflicts could have been resolved by playing a match. They agreed about the consequences or negative impact that war has upon families. Both armies longed for peace and exchanged Christmas carols and hoped to unite with their respective families soon. Question 5. Mention the various ways in which the British and German soldiers become friends and find things in common at Christmas. Answer. Both the British and the German soldiers were enemies at war and belonged to different camps. However, at the end of the day, both armies comprised human beings who had similar feelings of love and compassion for their respective families and all those who were fighting the war. Both groups shared the festive spirit of Christmas and enjoyed a feast together by eating, drinking and making merry together. They also talked of Bathsheba and Gabriel Oak and Sergeant Troy and Dorset. They also sang Christmas carols together and spent some quality time with each other. They got over hatred and played a friendly game of football and wished that all conflicts in the world could be resolved by playing games. Both Jim and Hans hated war and knew well how the war affected the lives of their families. Both were anxious to return home to their families once the war comes to an end. Question 6. What is Connie's Christmas present? Why is it the best Christmas present in the world? Answer. When the narrator visited Connie to deliver her husband's letter, she mistook him to be her husband, Jim Macpherson, due to her old age and memory loss. She was looking forward to Jim returning home for Christmas. She felt this was the best Christmas present she could ever receive. This was the best Christmas present in the world for Connie because Jim had mentioned in the letter that he would return home from the war on Christmas. She used to read that letter multiple times a day to feel her husband's presence nearby. Hence, when the narrator told her how he would found the letter, she was extremely happy and felt it was Jim who had come to visit her after a long time. Question 7. Do you think the title of this story is suitable for it? Can you think of any other title? Answer. In my opinion, the title of the story is very apt and suits it perfectly. The festive spirit of Christmas prevails throughout the story. It clearly mentions how the warring troops longed for peace and had a strong desire to return home safely to their respective families. They shared a wonderful moment together by sharing food and drinks, talked to their heart's content, and played a football match among themselves. However, when the narrator goes to visit Connie along with the letter written by her husband Jim Macpherson, she presumes the author to be her husband and thanks him for gifting her the best Christmas present ever. Some suitable titles could be The Best Christmas Gift and When a Christmas Wish Comes True. तो दोस्तों हमारे सारे क्वेश्चंस यहाँ पूरे हो चुके हैं. अब ये क्वेश्चन आंसर्स कर लेते हैं. वर्किंग विद लैंग्वेज. लुक एट दीज सेंटेंसेस फ्रॉम द स्टोरी. आई स्पॉटेड इट इन अ जंक शॉप इन ब्रिडपोर्ट. The man said it was made in the early 19th century. This one was in bad condition. The italicized verbs are in the past tense. They tell us what happened in the past before now. Read the passage below and underline the verbs in the past tense. Answer. A man got on the train and sat down. The compartment was empty except for one day. She took her gloves off. A few hours later, the police arrested the man. They held him for 24 hours and then freed him. So ये सारी verbs थी past tense में. Now look at these sentences. The veneer had lifted almost everywhere. Both fire and water had taken their toll on this desk. Notice the verb forms had lifted, had taken their toll. The author found and brought the desk in the past. The desk was damaged before the author found it and bought it. Fire and water had damaged the desk before the author found it and bought it. We use verb forms like had damaged for an event in the earlier past. If there are two events in the past, we use the had form for the event that occurred first in the past. We also use the past perfect tense to show that something was wished for or expected before a particular time in the past. For example, I had always wanted one. Discuss with your partner the difference in meaning in the sentences below. When I reached the station, the train left. When I reached the station, the train had left. Fill in the blanks using the correct form of verbs in the bracket. Answer: my little sister is very naughty. When she came back from the school yesterday, she had torn her dress. We asked her how it happened. She said she had quarreled with a boy. She had beaten him in a race and he had tried to push her. She had told the teacher and so he had chased her and she had fallen down and had torn her dress. तो दोस्तों मैंने फिल इन द ब्लैंक्स ऑलरेडी आपके लिए फिल कर दिए हैं, तो आप यहाँ से नोट कर सकते हैं. अंडरलाइन द वर्ब्स एंड अरेंज देम इन 2 columns, past and earlier past. Answer: my friends set out to see the caves in the next column, but I stayed at home because I had seen them already. When they arrived at the station, their train had left. They came back home, but by that time I had gone out to see a movie. So they sat outside and ate the lunch I had packed for them. By the time I returned, they had fallen asleep. तो मैंने ऑलरेडी अंडरलाइन कर दिया है और इनको हम पास्ट और अर्लियर पास्ट में लगा लेते हैं. पास्ट में जैसे सेट आउट, स्टेड, अर्लियर पास्ट में हैड सीन. तो सिमिलरली पास्ट के हम देख लेते हैं. अराइव्ड, केम, सेट, एट, रिटर्न्ड. और अर्लियर पास्ट के हैं हैड लेफ्ट, हैड गॉन, हैड पैक्ड, हैड फॉलन. डिक्शनरी वर्क. By the end of the journey, we had run out of drinking water. Look at the verb run out of in this sentence. It is a phrasal verb. It has 2 parts, a verb and a preposition or an adverb. Phrasal verbs often have meanings that are different from the meanings of their parts. Find these phrasal verbs in the story. Burn out, light up, look on, run out, keep out. Write down the sentences in which they occur. Consult a dictionary and write down the meaning that you think matches the meaning of the phrasal verb in the sentence. Answer: first, burnout. House number 12 turned out to be nothing but a burned out shell. The roof gaping. The windows boarded up. This line implies that the house was destroyed by fire. Second, light up. That was the moment her eyes lit up with recognition and her face became suffused with a sudden glow of happiness. This line implies that Connie's face brightened up with happiness. Third, look on. Hans, Wolf and I looked on and cheered, clapping our hands and stamping our feet to keep out the cold as much as anything. This line implies that both Jim and Hans watched and cheered each other while playing a football match. Run out. The time came, and all too soon, when the game was finished, the schnapps and the rum and the sausage had long since run out, and we knew it was all over. This line implies that the game was over, and so was the fun and food that was all used up. Keep out. Hans, Wolf and I looked on and cheered, clapping our hands and stamping our feet to keep out the cold as much as anything. This line implies that they tried to avoid the cold by clapping their hands and stamping their feet. Noun phrase. Read the following sentence. I took out a small black tin box. The phrase in italics is a noun phrase. It has the noun box as the head word and 3 adjectives preceding it. Notice the order in which the adjectives occur: size, small, color black, and material tin, of which it is made. We rarely use more than 4 adjectives before a noun, and there is no rigid order in which they are used, though there is a preferred order of modifiers, adjectives in a noun phrase as given below. Determiner, a and the, modifier 1, opinion, feeling, nice, lazy, beautiful, modifier 2, size, shape, age, tall, round, old or young, modifier 3, color, red, white, light, dark, modifier 4, material, silk, cotton, woolen, adverb, woman, man, table, chair. Check the question properly and try to understand the placement of noun phrase and adjectives in it. The table below contains a list of nouns and some adjectives. Use as many adjectives as you can to describe each noun. You might come up with some funny descriptions. Answer: noun, elephant. Adjectives: enormous, large, cheerful, wild, medium sized. Noun, face. Adjectives: round, cheerful, chubby. Noun, building. Adjectives: multicolored, blue, red, medium sized. Noun, water. Adjectives: blue, cold. Speaking. In groups, discuss whether wars are good way to end conflicts between countries. Then present your arguments to the whole class. Answer: war brings in a lot of hatred and devastation with it. It exhibits the unseen and unfair side of humans. Nations fight a war sometimes for pretty reasons like sharing or conquering a piece of land or due to religion. Soldiers who fight the war leave their families behind. Their children become orphaned and wives become widows when they lay down their lives for their respective countries. Therefore, wars are definitely not an ideal way to end conflicts and cause huge destruction to life and property. Students may depict their views in front of the whole class as per their own thinking. Second question: what kind of presents do you like and why? What are the things you keep in mind when you buy presents for others? Discuss with your partner. For example, you might buy a book because it can read and reread over a period of time. Answer: on the personal front, I do not like the practice of exchanging costly gifts. However, if we really want to thank someone with a present, we can buy some flowers as a token of affection for the respective person. Due to this reason, we notice that on formal occasions, many guests bring flower bouquets as gift to express their warm feelings. Note: students may depict their own views and discuss it with their partner as per their convenience. Writing. Imagine that you are Jim. You have returned to your town after the war. In your diary, record how you will feel about the changes you see and the events that occur in your town. You could begin like this: 25 December 1919. It's Christmas today, but the town looks. Or, suppose you are the visitor, you are in dilemma. You don't know whether to disclose your identity and disappoint the old lady or let her believe that her dear Jim has come back. Write a letter to a friend highlighting your anxiety, fears and feelings. Answer: 25 December 1919. It's Christmas today, but the town looks different from other days. The town was devastated by war. The buildings have been destroyed and are in complete ruins. My house is almost burned by the bombardments happening due to war. All such events have taken a heavy toll on the lives of the soldiers as well as the civilians as a whole. I am in complete distaste of whatever is happening around and want to curse the warmongers. I truly long for peace and brotherhood among the countrymen and the people from across the borders. Given below is the outline of a story. Construct the story using the outline. A young newly married doctor, freedom fighter, exiled to the Andaman and Nicobar Islands by the British, infamous cellular jail, prisoners tortured, revolt by inmates, doctor hanged, wife waits for his return, becomes old, continues to wait with the hope and faith. Answer: in the year 1929, when India was under the British Raj, the English education system enlightened the minds of a few people. Gradually, people started thinking progressively and were fighting hard to free the country from British rule. At that time, a young newly married doctor was framed in a conspiracy case and sent to Andaman and Nicobar Islands which was located in the Bay of Bengal. He was a freedom fighter who was exiled to the infamous cellular jail for a few years. He, along with other prisoners in his jail, was subjected to inhuman torture due to the revolt made by the inmates. One fine day, he was hanged, but his wife kept waiting for his return until she grew old. However, she never lost her hope and faith and continues to wait for her husband to return someday. तो दोस्तों हमारे सारे क्वेश्चन आंसर्स यहाँ कंप्लीट होते हैं. वॉर इज़ द ग्रेटेस्ट प्लेग डेट कैन अफेक्ट ह्यूमैनिटी. इट डिस्ट्रॉयज रिलीजन, इट डिस्ट्रॉयज स्टेट्स, इट डिस्ट्रॉयज फैमिलीज. मार्टिन लूथर. This book is to be neither an accusation nor a confession, and least of all an adventure, for death is not an adventure to those who stand face to face with it. It will try simply to tell of a generation of men who, even though they may have escaped shells, were destroyed by the war. Erich Maria Remarque, author of All Quiet on the Western Front. दोस्तों हमने इस चैप्टर के क्वेश्चन आंसर्स अब कंप्लीट कर लिए हैं. आई होप आपको अच्छे से ईजिली समझ आ गए हों. आप इन क्वेश्चन आंसर्स को देख सकते हैं और नोट डाउन कर सकते हैं. अगर आपको वीडियो अच्छी लगे तो इसे लाइक कीजिए और अपने दोस्तों के साथ इसे शेयर कीजिए. अगर आपने अभी तक मेरा चैनल सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया तो इसे सब्सक्राइब कीजिए और बेल आइकन भी दबाइए ताकि नई वीडियोस के नोटिफिकेशन आप तक पहुंच सके. मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट वीडियो में. तब तक आप अपना ध्यान रखिए और बड़ों का आदर कीजिए. धन्यवाद.